Today I will explain you about Java Servlets. Java Servlets are basically called as server-side applications because the applications what we develop with this particular technology is basically deployed at server side, and those applications can be called from the client. So in that sense, we call the applications developed by server technology or server-side applications. Now, what type of applications you can develop by using the servlet technology? Servlet technology is used to create a web application, and it is residing at server side and generates a dynamic web page. So this web pages are been residing in the server, that is web server or the application server, and we are able to extract that particular web application which is residing at the server side, and that is been generating the dynamic web pages. Now whenever I give some input which is acting as a request, and based on the request the server is going to handle, and it is going to give it to the web application, that is a concerned web application, and the web application executes a particular request and give back the result. And that is called dynamic web pages are being created. So the servlet technology has been used for creating web application, and is also been generating some response to the particular application. That means accepting request and response. The servlet technology is robust and scalable because of Java language, because servlet is part of Java programming, and Java programming supports robust and scalable features. So here we can enhance the servlet technology, as well as we can go for robust feature, that is the garbage collection, where the unused Java objects can be, memory can be released, and we can go for exception handling concepts also into this one. And we can add some classes and interfaces for the existing servlet technology so that it holds the scalable features. Now, Servlet is an API that provides many interfaces and classes, including documentation. Now, when you do the programming, we have an API that is javax.servlet. Java X stands for the extended version, because earlier everything was put into Java, like java.io, java.net, like that. But now the advanced features have been put into a separate package called JavaX. So javax.servlet is an API, that's a package which is providing many interfaces and classes, including the documentation part, so that we can understand and write the application properly. Now, servlet is an interface that must be implemented for creating any servlet application. Suppose we are writing our own application, that is servlet program, then we need to see that either directly or indirectly we need to implement this servlet interface. Now, servlet is a class that extends the capabilities of the servers and responds to the incoming request. It can respond to any request. So whenever you go for programming, as I said, you need to implement the servlet interface, but implementing all the methods will be a very hectic task, because only few methods can be used from that. So they are given two predefined classes for us, which have already implemented the servlet interface, that is generic servlet and HTTP servlet. Now, generic servlet is a class which has already implemented the servlet interface directly, and that class is being basically used to develop applications for all types of protocols. It could be HTTP, FTP, SMTP, and so on and so forth. But as we know that the browser is been mostly working with HTTP protocol, they have designed a separate servlet called HTTP servlet, which is extending generic servlet, and generic servlet is implementing servlet. So I can say HTTP servlet is also implementing servlet interface indirectly. In the similar case, When we write our own applications, by extending either generic servlet or HTTP servlet, we are indirectly implementing servlet interface. So only two things you need to remember by using servlet is nothing but request and response. So that's the reason we say servlet holds a request response architecture. A servlet is a web component that is deployed on the server to create a dynamic web page. So what all applications you are going to write by using servlet technology or servlet API, you need to put into a web server or an application server. So for example, Tomcat, Apache Tomcat is there, which is nothing but a web server. You can deploy into that and you can access your files. Now, by seeing this diagram, you can understand what is request and response oriented architecture. Now, the client is requesting certain file or resource. The server is accepting that request, and the response is generated at runtime. That's called dynamic web pages, and the response is sent back to the client. So, request and response oriented applications can be developed by using Java Servlets. So, everything is put onto this particular server. The complete application has been put onto this particular server, and anything what you want to access or request need to go to this particular server, and the server is going to execute that, and only the output is be sent back to the client. Now, what is a web application? A web application is an application accessible from the web. So day in and day out, most of us are dealing with the websites, and every web page what you're seeing on the particular browser is called as a web application or the web page. Okay, a web application is composed of web components like servlet programming, or it could be Java server pages, or it could be filtering, like from one servlet to other servlet, how the data has been passing, etc., and other elements such as HTML, cascading style sheets, and the JavaScript. Now, these are all the components are being used in order to create a web application. The web components typically execute in web server and respond to the HTTP request, hypertext transfer protocol request, because the browsers are being working with HTTP. So as I said, HTTP servlet class is there for us in order to build the HTTP request and response. So any web page or any website is considered as a web application. So through servlets, I can develop a web application where I can connect to the database, or I can put a static text, or I can go for dynamic text, or I can use some JavaScript functions now, cascading style sheets. Everything can be performed by using the servlet applications. Now, earlier to servlets, we were having a technology called Common Gateway Interface. Now, this CGI technology enables a web server to call an external program and pass HTTP request information to the external program to process the request. And for each request, it creates a new process. So earlier to the servlets, we were working with CGI, but due to some problems, we are getting into servlet technology. So here it says that the technology enables a web server to call an external program. It need to call an external program to hand over the request, and after processing, it need to get back the response. So like that, for every request, it is starting something called a new process. When you go for a new process, we say that whenever a client is make a request to a server through CGI, the CGI is trying to find out the concerned file from the secondary memory, and it is loading to the primary memory in the server. But after responding to the client, the application which was residing in the server memory, that is a primary memory, is being getting back to the secondary memory. So loading the data from secondary to primary, and after responding, it is unloading into the from primaries to secondary is called as one process, or it's called as one cycle. So like that, for every request, it is loading the data and unloading back immediately after responding. It is not waiting for some more time into the memory so that the same application can be called by some other people. So that was the biggest problem. So every cyclic operations is called as one process. So even though the request is coming from the same client, that is second request is coming from the same client, still a new process was getting created. So whenever you go for such a cyclic process, the system get crashed at a certain point of time, and there could be a time delay process, and there is a multitasking applications cannot be done perfectly. Now this is the diagram for the CGI. So you see you have a server here, could be web server or application server. Now here the requests are flowing from the external entities, and here you can see the server is holding some HTTP protocol. Uh, Now for every request there is a separate CGI shell is created, and it is handing over to the particular application to process and give it back. So here there is no concept of multi-threading. So this is a new process, and this one is a new process, and this one is a new process, and it goes for the concerned application to be sorted out and executed, and finally it gives the results. So if thousands of requests are coming, thousands of processes have been created, so there's a major problem, and the processor load is also been more. So in order to overcome this particular problem, we are getting into the servlets. So coming to the disadvantage of CGI, now if the number of clients increases, it takes more time for sending the response. That is one problem. For each request, it starts a process, and the web server is limited to start processes. That means every time a new request is being created, so that is a major problem what you're trying to find. It uses platform dependent language, not independent, dependent language like C, C++, and Perl for writing the applications. And here there is no CGI to CGI communication possible. That means one CGI program cannot communicate with other CGI program for doing some task partially by one application, and the other can do some other partial job. So that sort of communication or sharing of data is not possible, and there is no multi-threading concept applicable for CGI. Now these are few problems what the CGI was facing. So we need to overcome this. So we are going for the servlets. Now coming to the advantage of servlets, you can see the same number of requests you can see as we were seeing for CGI, but here one servlet application, but different threads we are able to create, and for every request the same copy with a particular thread, one thread of the same copy is given to the client 1, then 2 and 3, like that. And here you can see the processor overload is also been less. So here the threads are nothing but lightweight process which is doing a particular task, right? So here what happens is once the requested file is been loaded in from the secondary memory to the primary memory in the server, after responding to a certain client, that particular application is going to wait for some more time. It's not like CGI, which is going to come down immediately to the secondary. Once the response is given to a servlet client, still it is going to wait for some more time for the request by different clients. Now here, once we are doing by keeping some time period in, so that the application is going to store be in the memory for some more time after response. In the meantime, there could be a number of requests flowing for the same application, so there is no time delay in response. But as in CGI, you can see every time it has been unloading immediately to the secondary memory means obviously the time delay process has been existing. But here we are overcoming that particular issue. Now coming to the advantages of Java Servlets, the better performance because it creates a thread for every request, not the process, because process takes a lot of time and it takes more number of resources, but a thread is taking less number of resources and the faster execution can be done. Portability because it uses Java language. Java supports portability issues where you can transfer your application from one system to other system very easily and execute on any operating system. Now, robust JVM, that is Java Virtual Machine, manages servlets, so we don't need to worry about the memory leakage, garbage collection, etc. So we are not using any pointer sort of thing here, and there is no memory leakage problem when you go for Java. And the unused Java objects are being removed through the garbage collection process. So the servlets are part of your Java. Java supports memory leakage problems to be avoided, and garbage collection has been done. Same thing is applicable for servlets also. Now it is secure because it uses Java language, because as you know, the security is one of the most important aspect of Java. So the servlets is also holding that security through the security managers. communication. Now servlet to servlet communication is possible. So one servlet can communicate with the servlet for data sharing, and it can perform the task very easily. Then multi-threading is also been possible because Java supports multi-threading. The servlets are part of Java. It's still servlets are supporting multi-threading because for the faster execution. So these are few best advantages what we are getting with the Java servlets. So that's the reason from CJ we are trying to shift to the Java servlets where we can develop the web applications uh, very perfectly and deploy into the web servers or the application servers, and we can create a nice web application to the website to work with. So I hope I have given some input on what is Java Servlet and what are the problems we're facing with the CGI, which was the older technology. Uh, so if you like this video, do comment, subscribe, and share it to your friends. Thank you.